wonder if this clicks on.
Wait, Mister, one more thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, when we put annotate on top, do we go on the? There's a new assignment on there. It says Bell Prater copy. Do we go on that one?
Yeah, you can just click on that one. This just allows you to write on here when you open it there. So you can use your book, but it's just easier to annotate on top of here, in my mind at least, because you guys are going to have to answer some questions. So it's easier if you just write on here. We're on chapter 6, which is page 25 on this one. All right. Make sure you're here. Make sure you're ready. All right. Should be ready to make some notes. Arthur.
Which page?
This is on my screen. It's 25, but maybe a little different on yours, depending on what program you opened. In the beginning of chapter 6. Make sure you are ready to take some notes, please. Did these two people come in late? Let's go missing one. Oh, Jonathan just showed up. Attendance. Timeless. Did Saeed show up? Or Joseph? No Joseph? No Saeed.
Can we annotate on the book?
Don't write on the novel, but you can use just a separate document. If you want to put sticky notes, that's up to you. But don't write in the book. So you can write on here. You can physically write on it. So again, to make comments, remember you highlight. Then you can either hit this plus sign to add a comment, or hit insert comment to make notes on the actual text.
So we're on chapter 6, right?
You are on chapter 6, correct. Alright, Arthur, I don't know what you're doing, but you have to focus, bro. Stop staring at your friends and pay attention. Alright, so again, I'm recording this. Just in case you get kicked out for whatever reason. Oh, Gypsy, you're so awfully beautiful. What's this an example of? Who remembers what that is called? What type of figurative language is that? Awfully beautiful.
Oxymoron?
That is correct. Good job. That is an oxymoron. Make sure you have that comment for yourself. Cool. Joseph has arrived. Joseph, make sure you arrive on time, sir. All right. These were Woodrow's words. What's that, Edgar? What did you say?
I said I need a pencil to write notes.
Oh. Someone is calling my phone. I am not answering it. You can just have a split doc. So that's another way. Just open up a Google Doc. You can write. That's another option for you. These were Woodrow's words the next morning when he first saw me all dressed up for Sunday school. He was on Granny's front porch reading the Sunday paper, which he dropped when he saw me coming. I couldn't help smiling. I was wearing one of those little bitty pieces of hat with a veil, barely covering my eyes. It was pink, like my new dress, which had long tapered sleeves and kick pleats on each side. I also had on pink shoes with an inch-high heel. And naturally, I was wearing the white gloves every well-brought-up girl wore to church. You're not so bad yourself, cousin, I said as I looked up at him up and down. He was wearing a pair of blue pants and a nice blue shirt with a tie to match. I never wore one of these before, he said as he fingered the tie, but it's kind of nice. Grandpa tied it for me. You ready to go, I said. Together we started down the street. There was a Methodist and a Baptist church on Slag Creek, and all kinds of offspring churches in the hollers, but everybody in Coal Station, who was anybody at all, as my mama put it, went to the Presbyterian church. It was the biggest and the best. It had a tall steeple with a bell that rang at 11 a.m. on Sunday mornings and on special occasions. You could hear it echoing through the hills for miles around. You can imagine folks stopping wherever they were doing to listen. My Sunday school class has about 10 kids in it, ages 11 through 12, which means we were in the in-betweens, feeling like we didn't belong anymore. Not with teenagers, and certainly not with youngins. They actually came out with a name that refers to kids who are this age. Who knows what that thing is called? If you're not quite a teenager, but you're not a child, what do they call you?
Underage?
No.
What do they call you?
Starts with a T. What do they call people your age?
Minors? Teenagers?
Nope. You're not quite teenagers. You're tweens. Okay. It's kind of a newer phrase. Tweens. Some, like Buzz Osborne, had a growing spurt that shot them ahead taller than others. Some, like Willie and Mary Lee, were pure T-runts. And there were the average Jones like me and Woodrow. So I don't think you guys have sex education in health class. But generally, I think it's usually 8th grade that gets you guys, right? So when you're right now you guys are like adolescents, right? You're like going through your teenage years. Generally, you'll notice that girls actually start to mature faster. So that's why, like in 6th grade or 5th grade or like 7th grade, you'll notice like all the girls are bigger than the boys by height. It's generally because the boys don't hit puberty until a little bit later, like 8th grade, 9th grade, 10th grade. That's why you'll notice like girls are towering over the boys that you around your age. But none were stingy with the questions, and Woodrow got the works. Everybody talked at once. Oh, you live with the balls? Since when? How old are you? Can you look in 2 directions at once? Why are they asking if you can look in 2 directions at once?
Because he's cross-eyed?
Yeah, because he's cross-eyed. Exactly. Good. You don't favor Gypsy a bit. How much did that tie cost? Do you believe in God? To the last question, Woodrow replied, "Yeah, I met him once." You met God? They said, "No, you didn't." Yeah, I did. And you know what? He sneezed, and I didn't know what to say. This is actually him making a joke. Why is that a joke? Who knows the punchline?
Because no one's met him?
No. What's his joke? The last line is kind of the joke. So it says,
Because it's saying like bless you, so like
you're supposed to say God bless you. So he didn't know what to say because he's God. So God bless you. Yeah, I spelled that wrong. So God bless you can't be said because he says it's God, right? So that's why it's a joke. They didn't get it, right? So they didn't understand that joke. Woodrow tried again. Tried to do what? What do you think?
tell the joke again.
You tried to joke?
Exactly. He's going to give another joke. So he's got 2 jokes here. His name is Howard, you know. God's name ain't Howard. Sure it is, said Woodrow. It says so in the Lord's Prayer. Howard be thy name. So the joke in here has to do with this. He's changing the word. So in that prayer, it's not Howard. It's supposed to be hallowed. He's mispronouncing the word. Again, make sure you're taking these notes down. They will help you on the questions. Again, that's a joke.
Wait, what page are you in right now? I lost track.
We're still on the first page of the chapter, I believe. Make sure you are paying attention. This is chapter 6. Okay. Continue. That one they got. Nobody asked Woodrow anything about Aunt Belle. And I figured they didn't get the connection, so again, if they realized that he was Belle's son, they probably would be hitting him up with questions, but nobody realizes that. When our teacher, Mrs. Compton, came in, I introduced her to Woodrow. She made him feel welcome, but she didn't ask him any questions at all. She went right into the lesson. That Sunday, the Presbyterian literature for intermediates dealt with Jesus healing the sick. We read about it in the New Testament, then we talked about it. You know, boys and girls, Mrs. Compton said very sweetly, sickness is a bad thing, but all of us get sick once in a while. Sometimes it's so bad that we think we're going to die. Have you ever known anyone who was very, very sick? About 4 people raised their hands, including Woodrow, but I couldn't think of any sick people. Would one person like to tell us about someone who was very, very sick, Mrs. Compton said. Only one person raised his hand then, and that was Woodrow. All right. Is it Woodrow? Mrs. Compton said. Yes, ma'am, he said politely. Would you like to come up here, Woodrow? Woodrow went to the front of the class. I was amazed. Every bright and shiny face was turned to him, curious to hear what this new boy had to say. This is the story about Buck Coleman, Woodrow began, who had a sickness so bad. Well, let me tell you, it was bad. His belly kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger. What's this an example of?
Oxymoron. No. He's not even doing his work, man.
That is correct. That is repetition. Very good. Hey, make sure to write that down. It got as big as a watermelon. All right, so now I'm going to tell you right now because you might not recognize this. He's lying. The story is impossible, right? So there's this disease that he's going to talk about. It's called tapeworm. Right? Tapeworm is a real condition, actually, that people used to get back in the day, and people in like poorer countries probably still get it. So it's like this a parasite that goes inside of your intestines or whatever. Stop. Mute yourself, Jonathan. So it goes inside of your intestines, and it basically does like feed off of your body, and it can grow pretty long. And it's like the reason why they call it tapeworm is because it's literally super thin. It's like a worm-looking thing, but it's like super thin, like tape.
There was this I saw this Guinness World. I was reading this Guinness World Record book of like 2018, and there was this guy that had like a 21-inch tapeworm.
So it can really happen. Yeah, it's disgusting, but. So he's telling a story about a tapeworm that grew to the size of a watermelon. Obviously impossible, but he's just telling the story, right? So again, just recognize that now. He got as big as a watermelon, but the rest of him kept falling off. So he's saying parts of his body are falling off again. It's kind of fantastical. Buck finally had to go to the doctor, and the doctor said, "Buck, you got the biggest tapeworm I ever even heard tell of, and it's curled up in your belly, getting all your food." Well, the doctors tried to kill that tapeworm, but they couldn't do it without killing Buck with it. He kept eating a lot, but he was still starving to death. And I forgot to tell you, he craved molasses. This is what molasses is. So molasses is like a thick, syrupy thing that comes from sugarcane. So they make sugarcane into rum. Rum is an alcohol. So when they go to make that sugarcane into rum, on the top layer of it is this super thick gooey stuff, which is molasses. It's like super like sweet, like sugar is. And they actually put this in brown sugar. I don't know if you've ever seen brown sugar before. You use it to cook for certain things. The brown comes from the molasses, actually. So he's craving this food, molasses. Woodrow paused to let everything sink in. Molasses, little wolf, Willie Stacy said. Yeah, molasses, Woodrow continued. Finally, the doctor decided to lure the tapeworm out, so he's going to try to get the tapeworm out. With how's he going to lure it out? Mary Lee Rowe said. Well, with molasses, naturally. They took a big jar of molasses and they held it in front of Buck's face. And the tapeworm smelled it, and it came crawling out to get it. And Buck was saved from Willie again. No, that tapeworm was so long and fat that Buck suffocated to death before it got out. Woodrow sat down. I thought Mrs. Compton was going to faint. Really, Woodrow? She said irritably. Was that necessary? Did that happen, or did you make it up? Right, so obviously he tells this story, and it's obviously a crazy story. It's not real. And it shocks her. So she's almost faints, and then she gets all mad. Why didn't she get mad? Why would she get mad from telling that story? What do you think?
Well, she almost fainted.
Exactly, because it's kind of like a disgusting story, right? You can tell some story about like a giant worm coming out of someone's mouth that they choke on and die. It's like a nasty image just to think about, right? It's kind of disgusting. So she got mad. He made that up, Buzz Osborne chimed in. Upon my word of honor, Woodrow said, Buck Coleman was my daddy's sister's husband's uncle's cousin. That doesn't make it true, Mrs. Compton shot back. I know a story too, Mary Lee said, about my aunt who went to New York City and they fed her snails. So this is actually a true thing. Snails are considered like a delicacy in French cuisine. I remember seeing some weird documentary. Supposedly, like snails, they like absorb the flavor of foods. So if you put like a snail on like, I don't know, say like a piece of chocolate or something, and it eats it, like sometimes like that flavor of the chocolate or something gets absorbed. So like the French put snails on things to like add flavor or something. I don't think I could ever eat a snail. But actually heard another crazy story about somebody who ate like a slug And like slugs are super like bad for you, and like they could poison you if you eat it. Never mind. Mrs. Compton said. Let's talk about something else. The thought for the week is on page 36. While everybody was turning to page 36, Woodrow glanced at me and winked so quick I didn't think everybody else saw him. I'd like to hide my smile that had come. Why is Woodrow winking? Why is Woodrow winking there? Why is Woodrow winking? What do you think, Mr. Jimenez? Do you have an idea? Why would Woodrow be winking at his cousin there?
Is it because like is it like a signal?
Kind of. Why would he wink at her? What is he telling her by winking?
He's lying.
Yeah, he's letting her know that he's lying, right? Exactly. He's letting his cousin in on the joke. Right, so he's letting his cousin know that he's like screwing around. That's when I knew for sure that Woodrow wasn't as backward as he went on, but he had a bit of devil in him. So we're learning two things that she notices about her cousin. What do both of those phrases mean? If I say that you have the devil in you, what does that mean? If I say you have the devil in you, what is that saying about her cousin? What do you think?
He's bad. He is bad.
Yeah, exactly. So Woodrow is bad at times. What does it mean if he isn't as backward as he let on? If I say you're not as backward as I thought, what does that mean? What do you think? Ms. Reyes, do you have any ideas? What does it mean if you're not as backward as I let on?
He's not that bad like a devil.
No, it's not about that. Okay, backward meaning like they have the impression this kid's like some poor kid who's lived this life of being backwards, which means like just like not going forward. So it's almost like being dumb. So the opposite of being dumb is being smart. Right? So that's a clever thing to do, right? To tell this ridiculous story about some crazy tapeworm that killed a kid. Because he knows it's going to upset the teacher and it's going to make the other kids like all kinds of like freaked out. So again, Woodrow's bad at times and is also pretty smart. After Sunday school, the church bells rang and we went out into the bright morning to listen. I thought I'd never seen such a blue and green and golden day. Mom and Porter were in the choir room fixing to sing during the service. But Grandpa and Granny were outside chattering with their neighbors. Mr. Cooper, the school principal, was okay, but he was married to a killjoy. Killjoy kind of means exactly what it sounds like. So what does that mean? Someone who kills joy. Okay, another phrase to make it kind of easier for it. So another word for somebody who like kills joy, essentially is a hater. It's an easier, like kind of more common expression. So she's a hater, I would call her. Mr. Cooper, so this is the school principal's wife. Okay? Now let's see how bad she is. She could hardly stand to see folks enjoying life, especially kids. It got on her nerves so bad. I was sure she lay awake at nights thinking of ways to put a stop to it. And that's how it was that morning as we stood there listening to the bells and taking in the sweetness of the moment. Suddenly she walked right up to Woodrow. She grabbed him hard under the chin, lifting his face exactly like he was a horse. She was looking over to buy. What's this an example of? What is that an example of? Miss Sanchez, do you think you know?
Simile?
That is correct, Miss Herrera. That was a simile. What are they comparing? Sanchez. What is being compared there?
His face and the horse.
Sanchez's voice is changing into like a Ramirez Pena combo. Picture. Paying attention, people. Not much for looks, is he? Takes after his mama. What did she just do there? What did she just do there? What did Miss Porter just do? That's my name, Porter. Cooper.
He insulted him and his mom.
Yeah, pretty nasty, right? So she insults him, being insults Woodrow and his mother. Right? Woodrow jerked away from her with fury in his eyes, so obviously he's really pissed. But he didn't say a word to her. What does that tell you about Woodrow?
That he doesn't want to get in trouble.
Yeah, exactly. So it shows you some level of either tells me he is respectful, or has strong what's the word I want to say? He has a strong ability to control himself. So he's basically has strong control over his emotions. Well, now I hope you aren't as hard-headed as she was, so what did she just do? What did Cooper do again? Allison, what did she just do again? Costa? Bruce? What you got there?
He insulted him and the mom again. They're like calling them mean.
Exactly, hard-headed mean. Hard-headed means like stupid. So again, she's insulting the two of them. Again, now this would test anybody's patience, right? Imagine someone says this, right? Somebody says that, especially in his situation, right? What makes his situation even more unique? What is he dealing with that makes his situation even more unique? What is Woodrow dealing with? What happened to him in his life? What's Woodrow dealing with in his life that makes his situation even more unique?
His mom is gone?
Exactly. The fact that his mom is gone, so this guy's being insulted by this woman that he doesn't know. She's talking all this crap. And he's dealing with the fact that his mom is missing on top of it, so that's probably definitely going to be super stressful. Mrs. Cooper went on, placing her hands on her ample hips. I grabbed Woodrow's arm quick and pulled him towards Granny and Grandpa. Grandpa, don't you have a quarter for Woodrow to put in the collection plate? I said as loud as I could to drown out Mrs. Cooper, who was still talking. What is Gypsy up to here?
She's trying to like lighten the mood.
Exactly. So she's protecting her cousin, right? Grandpa did have a quarter for Woodrow, and I could tell by the way that he looked at the quarter. Woodrow wanted to keep it for his own self, but he didn't. In fact, he made it clatter when he tossed it into the plate so everybody would hear it. Going back home from church, Woodrow and I skipped along in front of the family, singing. He knew all the words to Abba Dabba Honeymoon, which he taught to me. Later, we vacuumed dog while Granny and Mama fixed fried chicken and gravy for dinner. Granny had one of those newfangled vacuum cleaners that was so mighty it could pick up a steel ball. In fact, that's how the salesman sold it to Granny. Grandpa always teased her about it because he said if anybody had any steel balls to vacuum up, Granny's machine was ready. It was strange how Dog wasn't one bit afraid of the vacuum cleaner, even with all the racket it made. Yeah, so I don't know if you guys have a dog or a cat or anything. They usually get freaked out by vacuums, so it's kind of odd that this dog doesn't get bothered by that. When you turn it on, she'd lie down in front of you, pull her legs up in the air, and grin at you. That meant she was ready for a good vacuuming. So I put out one of those attachments that was made for doing the couch and curtains and vacuumed Dog's belly with it. She loved it. Her four legs would paw the air at about 90 miles an hour. Woodrow got such a kick out of that. I offered to let him do the rest of Dog, which he did, giggling all the time. Late that evening, Woodrow and I went out to my treehouse overlooking Slide Creek, which my daddy built for me when I was only 5. It was a 2-story job, the lower floor being the porch, and the upper floor the house. Woodrow was impressed. After inspecting it throughout, he suggested that we make it our secret hideout. The house part was tucked among the leaves and blossoms so that from the ground nobody could see us unless they got up close. We'll put our sign on it, keep out, Woodrow said, and we'll stash our treasures inside. What treasures, I said. Oh, money and stuff, we'll get some treasures. Treasures was a good word. It sparked my imagination and conjured up images of kidnapped princesses and pirates and swashbuckling heroes. I have an old jewelry chest I don't use, I said. We'll bring it up here for our treasures. We settled down the tree porch and let our legs dangle out over the creek. The frogs were starting up with their party again, and all mingled in with the night sounds, where the mamas calling their children to come in because tomorrow was a school day. What's this an example of? No, it's not.
Personification.
Fantastic. Peña. That is correct. Peggy Sue, Franklin Delano. Alright, so again, thinking about the time, this is 1953. So again, lots of differences between your generation and like this generation back then, and my generation. So kids obviously used to play outside all the time. Obviously, you can't play outside right now because there's a pandemic and you're like forced in your houses, but even before the pandemic, I feel like your generation didn't really go out as much. You guys were like cooped up in your houses, playing video games on Netflix and doing whatever else you guys do in your houses. But it was kind of common. Kids would go home from school or whatever, and they would just go outside, and then they wouldn't come back until like nighttime, and the parents would have to scream their name. Remember, there's no cell phones back then, so if I want my kid, I either have to call a house or I have to like scream his name out. You must ask for what you really want, Woodrow said softly. That's what Mama's poem said. Preacher Yates said the same thing today in his sermon. Ask and you shall receive. What do you really want, Woodrow? You won't make fun of me? Oh, no, Woodrow, I'd never make fun of you. He smiled. Well, besides wanting Mama to come home safe and sound, I want my eyes to be straight. If my eyes were corrected, Gypsy, they would look just like yours. And again, most people don't have you don't see many cross-eyed people anymore, simply because the procedure is pretty easy for people to do now. But when I was growing up, there were a bunch of kids who had crossed eyes. But I think nowadays most people get that procedure corrected. My heart felt with pity for him, but I didn't say anything. What do you really want, Gypsy? Oh, it sounds silly next to what you want, Woodrow. You want important things. But what you want is important to you, no matter how it seems to someone else. What do you really want, Gypsy? I've never let these words cross my lips about the thing I really want. Mama would just die if she heard it, and it's no use asking for what you can't have. I want to get my hair cut short. But why? It's so beautiful. Nobody has hair like yours, Gypsy. That's for sure. And you want to know why you don't see other people running around with their hair down to their butt? Because it's so much work. That's all I do is take care of my hair. It's disgusting. Oh, Woodrow said. But that's not all, it continued. Sometimes, Woodrow, I feel invisible. Like maybe under all this hair, nobody can see me. They talk about my hair, but do they ever see what's underneath? You know what I mean? No, not exactly, Woodrow said. So she's struggling with this whole idea that people aren't like paying attention to who she is. All they pay attention to is her beautiful hair. It's actually kind of an interesting problem to have, right? So I'm sure there's lots of people who wouldn't mind being beautiful, right? And if your beauty is your problem, is that such a bad thing? Like some people take their beauty for granted. Like me, right? I'm so beautiful. No, not exactly, Woodrow said. Sometimes I want to say there's a person in here, but it sounds silly even to me. Woodrow didn't say anything and let out a long sigh. I guess I just didn't have the right words to explain. The night air was turning chilly. We watched the moon and listened to the mamas. Darn it! I'm gonna come out there and get you. Willie, don't make me call for you again. Woodrow, do you think Aunt Belle asked for what she really wanted in the morning, like Aunt Home said? Yeah, and she got it, too, he whispered. What? What do you mean? What did she ask for? I said, breathlessly, to get out of her life? Oh, Woodrow, you think she's... I couldn't say the word. Dead? Nah, she ain't dead, Woodrow said, matter of fact, but right now she probably may wish she was. What do you know, Woodrow? Gypsy! It was Mom calling me. Nothing for sure. Certain, Woodrow said. Gypsy, you come in now. It's time to brush your hair. I groaned. Coming, I yelled back. I'll tell you all I know tomorrow, Woodrow said, but you won't believe me. No. I want to know now. Not now. You gotta go brush your hair. That was definitely the wrong thing to say to me in that particular moment. I guess Woodrow realized his mistake and he said sorry. I folded my arms in stubborn resolution, so she doesn't want to leave. I'm not moving from the spot till you answer me. I'll stay right here if I want, or until Mama drags me out this tree, kicking and screaming. Woodrow sighed. Okay, he said, you go home, do your stuff, go to bed. Then you get up and sneak out the window and meet me back down here. No fool, and I said, grinning. I was excited. I never in 100 million years would have occurred to me on my own to do such a naughty thing. No fool, then Woodrow said, you think you can get away? Oh, sure, I said. Mom and Portal will turn in about an hour anyway. Okay, in an hour then. So I ran home. Right, so you kind of see that Woodrow has some sort of thing that he knows about his mom that he hasn't revealed. Alright, so make sure you're opening up Sakura Thief. Actually, let me stop this first.